Have you heard from him?
Maybe he just.
Or anything real quick?
Maybe he's just.
All right, board members, appreciate you being here today, and we have several things we want to cover in work session as we head into the board meeting tonight. So, begin with, we're going to come with David Cross, who's going to present Work Ready Randolph and kind of give a overview of where we're headed with career technical education. David?
Thank you, Danny. Good afternoon, board. Great to see you. I'm also excited about the cold temperature here. It feels amazing right now. So I appreciate that. All right, so I'm excited to present like our culminating initiative for our workforce roadmap. Scroll down, please, Sheena. So the past 4 years, we've been developing the roadmap. One of our big goals in the CT department is to make sure we're offering wraparound support for career education from grade 5 to grade 12. So we've been really trying to be intentional with how we do career development plans. We now offer career development plans from grade 6 to grade 12. We have career development coordinators and other school-based staff that work with students to have guided conversations. So we want to make sure our students are provided with the support and skills and opportunities necessary so they can make well-informed decisions as they're making their career choices. So along the map we have, sorry Sheena. So we start with high school tours in 5th grade. I've been through the presentations in the fall, and again we have targeted programs across the grade levels. So one thing I thought areas that we like to focus on as we round out this continuum is what we're going to do for our juniors and seniors after they've gone through the CTE pathways and the experiences. How do we give them the work-based learning and credentials that they need to take their next step in their career path? All right, now I'm ready. Sorry. All right, so we're really trying to focus on 5 pillars. And we have really, our big vision of this is to have homegrown talent, homegrown success. We want people to live here, go to school here, get trained, and come back and take these wonderful job opportunities that are starting to really take shape in Randolph County. So we're focused on 5 pillars for our 11th and 12th grade students. So we're really trying to focus on internships and pre-apprenticeships. Governor Stein, he really is pushing pre-apprenticeship in his State of the Union address. Growth from within, Apprenticeship Randolph, of course our career academies at Warrior Ridge focus on plumbing, collision repair, and photography, and then the career academies I've already presented on, and those are our post-secondary certificates and other credentials. So the goals of this, we really want to go recruit industry partners and other community partners to offer these internships and pre-apprenticeships to our students. We want to establish a system-wide opportunity to collaborate with our partners and also to create a growth from within concept from teacher prep to maintenance to transportation to all of the various factors where we could take our juniors and seniors and possibly have them looking towards Randolph County school system as a potential career choice. And then finally, the last one, we want to continue to pour into Warrior Ridge 612. We're starting to bus our students there next year, take advantage of those 3 academies, and also expand other academy options as we get once the enrollment starts supporting that. All right, so first we'll talk about internships and pre-apprenticeships. I was meeting with the chamber president this morning. We want to really go recruit, beginning this summer, industry partners from manufacturing to health science to, we have 26 different pathways. We'd love to be able to offer internship opportunities for all of our pathways. Granted, we're not going to be able to have 1,000 seats, but we want to start small and start really putting this opportunity out there. Students can receive a high school credit with us. They have to do 120 hours of on-the-job site training, but they get a high school credit. Now, partners can choose to pay them or not pay them, but we feel like we want to increase employability skills. We want to make sure kids are ready for their jobs or whatever the next chapter of life by making sure we're staying off their phones. We can talk professionally to adults. We can interview well. We can, all those things, employability skills that we continue to hear from our partners. We will continue to improve that. So we feel like placing them in these internships will give them that true professionalism that they need to take that next step forward. We want to, CT staff, we're going to manage this pillar, and so again, we're starting small, starting with the chamber, recruiting direct businesses and other community partners to be able to offer these opportunities. So grow from within. So our vision to this is we want to collaborate with school system leaders. We can offer these exact same internships by teacher prep, for example. So if we have the students interested in the teacher prep pathway, they can essentially intern in their own high schools and get 120 hours of job experience, get a high school credit, take that first step with us, and maybe come and do it to be a teacher. RCC and our partnership with them, we already offer a lot of post-secondary certificates and associate opportunities through CCP. Our school system pays for a lot of those supplies already, so kids are already starting to shave off some of those opportunities and working towards that step already with our systems. So we want to start kind of planting that seed, like what does it look like taking these steps to be a future Randolph County School System employee. Apprenticeship Randolph, so apprenticeship Randolph, we are able to start bringing on pre-apprenticeships through Apprenticeship Randolph. Apprenticeship Randolph's been around for 9 years. We have another great cohort of kids going through Apprenticeship Randolph. It is heavy manufacturing. They offer machinists and mechatronics and some IT. We're looking at about 16 to 18 placements after everything settles. They've already got a tremendous brand recognition. They've been to the White House a couple times, receiving awards. Apprenticeship Randolph, they're revitalizing their strategic plan this summer. So we're looking to potentially onboard more pathways, but we're going to continue to push Apprenticeship Randolph primarily for manufacturing, but looking to take steps with them to what does it look like to offer other apprenticeship pathways through Apprenticeship Randolph. So we're excited for that strategic plan writing this summer. Career academies, where we're really pushing those 4 course to 6 course certificates. When students get these certificates, they're saying that they have completed a college program. With us picking up most of the supply and tuition costs, students are getting a lot of these things essentially for free for them. So we want to continue to expand that opportunity to them. We try to figure out like what opportunities can we offer at RCC? How does that align with your career development plan? How can we continue to get the training and skills necessary while you're a junior and senior so you can shave off some of that debt, get ahead of the college, the skills you need, the credentials that you need. My Future NC goals back in 2019, there was a huge initiative to try to really provide students with more of this training and credentials because there's such a workforce gap. I saw something from the guy who runs Dirty Jobs. For every 5 people that retire in like a trade, only 2 replace them. So that's why I feel like these post-secondary certificates, quick way to get them credentials, like plumbing, for example, quick way to get an entry line credential in 2 courses. So really trying to push that across all of our pathways. And then finally, Career Academies at Warrior Ridge, we've been taking great steps with that staff there to really push those 3 pathways. We've got banners out there. We've had some solid interest out the gate. Looking to get that started, hire a bus driver, a student success coach with those programs. So really excited to take steps with those 3 career academies: plumbing, collision repair, and photography. We'll start busing students there as of the fall, and depending on how enrollment goes, we're looking to expand other pathways that would fit. And then our staff will continue to work alongside your Ridge staff and central office leadership to manage those pathways. So all that in a nutshell is we're really trying to lift up our juniors and seniors. We're really trying to provide a multitude of pathways for them after they get through our 5-12 plan of career development planning. We want to provide them on-site training. We want to provide them with post-secondary credentials. We want to, my hope would be after 3 years of this would be have hundreds of internship placements. Couple of outcomes from internships is we have tons of opportunities and jobs coming to our area. I feel like we could be the future workforce. We could give our kids these opportunities, high-paying jobs. We can help lift our kids out of generational poverty. Like I feel like we can help train them and get them ready, and then hopefully they'll come back and stay in Randolph County. So especially the growth from within, I'm excited to take those steps and plant those roots because I think we can really start growing our own teachers. We can grow our own machinists. We can grow our own automotive technicians. Like there's so many ways to do all of these things by building in these systems. So, we'll make sure everyone's good, but we're going to take great steps with this summer to market this and promote and recruit. Like I said, talked to the chamber president this morning, had a great opportunity with him to really go out and get businesses. We want to offer this to all sectors of our county, but there's lots of ways and funding potentially to support all these things. So we're excited. I just want to talk about the vision. Like we are just getting started with this. It's going to be a heavy lift, but we feel like this is what we need for our juniors and seniors, and our staff's ready to get to work on it. Questions, thoughts?
As far as the internships and apprenticeships and all, I'm saying I'm coming from a lot of work in emergency services. We got 20 fire departments in this county.
Sir.
Every one of them's hurting.
Mm-hmm.
Every one of them. And the thing is, because now the state has passed where 15-year-olds can take the certification classes we do. And I think if we could get that incorporated into this, you would be hitting because it's hard for the fire departments to get out and recruit these kids.
Yes, sir.
And, cause I have one boy now, he's going to Yard Ridge and he's going to RCC. Every time he graduates, he's gonna be a certified fireman. And I think that's a great opportunity there to link some of this to that. Because like I say, every fire department in the state is needed to help. And you talking small fire departments, maybe a little bigger than mine, they're starting these kids out at $45,000 a year, and some of them's over $50,000 a year. And like I say, you talking about growing this county, with the growth of the county, this is the infrastructure, it's got to be filled. I'm telling you, because if it's not filled, we're going to pay people more, and guess what? Your taxes is gonna go way up. And I think we're missing opportunity here to enlighten these kids on and giving them something they might enjoy doing.
So if, go ahead, sorry, Mr. Keller.
What do they need to do to get the certification?
They got to go take classes at RCC.
How long is that process?
If somebody's in it really does it in a year's time, in 12 months' time, they can be a certified fireman. Except for, there's 2 or 3 classes they do have to be 18 to take. A lot of them now, they can take it 15.
So
Does the
you
fire
would be,
department have to sponsor them?
Yeah, the fire department responsible, there's no cost, if it's in county going to RCC, there's no cost to the student to take those classes.
so I see ourselves as kind of like the relationship connector. So like our goal, let's say for you are, they come out of public safety 1 and 2, like they want to be a fireman. We would look to onboard a local fire department. Are you willing to take our student? And so the transportation, they'll have to get themselves there. And we would provide the high school credit, they have to get 120 hours of on-site, work opportunity. However, through that, though, the company can pour into them and pay for their training and pay them a wage if that's what they're interested in. And that could really start the snowball on them working their way through certification that way.
Could you hit a spell, I've got 1, 2, 3, 4, I got 5. And they're certified firemen, they started. Lucky I knew the kids and got them involved. But at times you run a spell, you can't find those kids.
Absolutely.
And it's a great opportunity out there, and really, it's not gonna cost anybody nothing. Fire departments, yeah, it's gonna be a cost on them for gear and stuff like that, but they pay for that anyway.
Absolutely.
So that's a good opportunity to look for, and, I've talked about emergency service in other parts, but I just don't know how the county works through that, but, because most of your fire departments is, out of 20, I know 18's paying people to work there. And I've had some junior firefighters I paid, come in and do stuff. But, it's an opportunity out there for it to really make it grow and help our county. I mean, I like this, the manufacturing part, but we still need to look outside of just manufacturing.
Well, another piece we have is the growth from within. We have jobs right here in the school system that are gonna need to be filled as we have transition of people out with retirements or other reasons. And, the track record's there. I can go around and show you students that we've hired back in different roles and they've been very successful. So that's part of the growth from within idea. Can kids even know the jobs we have right here in this system too, that are beyond teaching? Because there's a lot of things happen in the system that aren't teaching, but if they didn't happen, we wouldn't get to teach. We wouldn't have the kids in school and where they need to be in time for things to happen, such as our mechanic jobs, our maintenance facility jobs, child nutrition jobs, finance jobs that we have that are so critical to our school system.
I have a career day farmer, and I was talking to some of those kids who's in 5th grade, and I asked them I said, how many days a week does your teacher work? They said 5. I said, all right, how many weeks in a month? They said 4. I said, how many days? I said, how many days a month are they working? They said, 20. I said, you know how many days a fireman works a month? If they're on the right schedule, 10 days a month.
That's a good deal.
It's 24-hour shifts, but half the time they're sleeping. And then perk some of the ride, me.
I didn't know you were gonna go that far.
Yeah.
Now we know what you do.
That's not the way that story was going.
That's how you sell it, Tracy.
I was pulling Dr.
That-
Kane's on the math aspect.
I didn't know you were gonna end it with the variable we sleep half the time.
Hey, some nights
I
you sleep,
didn't
and some
say-
nights you don't sleep.
Hey, now, Mr. Bowles, I didn't say it, so for any fireman listening, I didn't say that comment.
Well, they say, some nights they sleep and some nights they don't get no sleep.
I mean,
You know,
today's
been,
month.
was Gilran up my way? They send them to like the fire academy and all, get them all trained, and they'll work with you.
We'll work for a while, then they gonna
Work
be
for a
see.
year or two,
Then they gotta be.
and then boom, it's so competitive. They go to Gilbert County or a big city and,
I know like Apex got more than me. They start off at 53,000 a year.
And we want to go out and recruit, so I mean, we'll take financial advising companies, we'll take insurance companies, fire departments, manufacturing facilities. Like in the past, what we've done internships, like a kid had a part-time job and they could do both. So they get jobs for pizza, they could essentially count that as CT internship credit. We're trying to make it more aligned to their pathway because we're really trying to provide kids no matter what you want to do in life, like here's your path. Like we also want to create some marketing documents to show families and students like, hey, if you want to be a fireman in 6th grade, this is what you want to do. Here are the courses you need to take, here are the credentials you need to take, and have like teed up internships ready for them so they can work their way towards that. So
don't
now we-
forget to add that part, though, you sleep half the time.
Yeah, I know. Yeah, we
There's
work
a selling
10
point right
days.
there.
Let's see, after 5 o'clock,
I know.
it's downtime.
Yeah.
But put in there, firemen is 75% janitor.
Yeah, awesome.
85% janitor.
And again, this is just our vision. If y'all have any thoughts, feedback, areas you would like to see in the plan?
I think this board needs to do whatever they can to make sure this, we offer the support that you need.
Appreciate that.
And, I know I was looking at the graduation statistics from last year. About 25% of our high school graduates are in the workforce.
And more are moving that way.
Yeah.
And what's really cool about some of the partners I'm already talking to, they have a lot of like tuition reimbursement. Like we had a kid come through apprenticeship Randolph, he's going to finish his engineering degree at State, all paid for from the company. So there's a lot of those, like fire groups will pay for credentials. Like there's a lot of companies that will pay for your tuition and credentials if they feel good about you. So there's a lot of opportunity with it. Thanks for your support.
Thank you, David.
Thank you.
All right, Marty.
All right, good evening. Before I get started, I want to introduce, we've got Kayla Williamson back in the back there. Kayla is the county supervisor, and she does a whole lot in our department. And she's been interested in coming to one of our meetings, so I told her tonight might be a good one. Last week, for example, our auditors were in, and they were able to be in and out today instead of 2. A lot of that goes to the work Kayla does. She pulled a whole lot of information from them, and I just appreciate all that she does for us and the school system, so glad she's with us tonight.
Marty, can I interrupt a second?
Yes.
I just want to brag on that whole group. The auditors here one day last week. A lot of times they're here multiple days. They were here one day. So that tells you when
They work like firemen.
I don't know, I've been in the friend's office before, the lights be shut off, and they be in there.
Marty, thank you, Kayla and staff, because that
That's
speaks
here today,
volumes.
wasn't it?
Yeah.
So, thank you for all your,
That's
all
why
your
you're
alignment
tired
and
of
everything
trying
else
to
you do.
sleeping on
They got a good place to sleep.
All right, so tonight I'm going to share with you the third quarter update for budget and finance. Like normal, we'll go through the revenues, expenses for state, current expense, federal, capital outlay, school nutrition, AT tax. I'll share with you the cash balances, where we stand with charter school enrollment, areas to watch, and I'll take any questions that you may have. So with our state revenues and expense, we pull down the revenues the same amount that we expend out each month, so I don't show you a breakdown of that, but for expenses third quarter, For this year, we had $35,451,682, which was a 4.39% over the prior year. And then year-to-date was $96,364,417, which was an increase of 5.68%. So it's pretty much in line with the third quarter increase. Current expense, this includes our Fund 2 and our Fund 8. For revenues, for third quarter, we were $7,216,813, which is slightly off from prior year. It's negative 0.48%. Year-to-date revenues is $21,777,336. That is actually an increase from prior year of 8.93%. Third quarter expenses is $6,035,470. That is a 12.66% increase over prior year. And year-to-date expenditures, $23,767,581, for a 6.59% increase. Just keep in mind, last year we had extra funds, this year we did not, so that's part of the difference there. Next will be the revenues and expenses for federal, just like state. We pull in the revenues as we spend our federal funds. So the third quarter, we were at $3,384,205. That was a pretty good difference from last year, 50.01% less than we did last year. Again, that's because of ESSER. Year-to-date expenses was $12,775,294. Again, you can see that was less than prior year at minus 20.60%. The ESSER funds were here first quarter, that went away completely then. So we're basically back to where we were pre-COVID as far as how we're funded and spending. Capital outlay, revenues and expenses, third quarter revenues was $717,967. That's a minus 52.04. Keep in mind there too was the timing when we requested the facility repair plan money, the $950,000. So that's the difference there from prior year. Year-to-date revenue was at $2,806,189. That gets us back up over. It's 8.68% more than prior year. Expenses was $862,297. That's a negative 3.21% over prior year. And year-to-date expenses was $2,548,943. Overall, for year-to-date expenses was negative 1.63. Again, a lot of that just depends on timing and project and that sort of thing. School nutrition, revenues and expenses. Revenues was at $2,020,530. That's down from prior year of negative 42.24%. Year-to-date revenue, it's, I don't know if I can sleep with that on my year-to-date revenues is $7,289,733.
Turn the phone off.
Negative 14.79% decrease there. Expenses, third quarter was $3,259,745. That's minus 2.33% over prior year. The year-to-date expenses was $8,090,770, and that's negative 4.15% over the prior year.
So what's the reason for that big on child nutrition, as far as that big a?
There were, Jeff's not in here, but there were some federal funds last year that were not here this year that were in place. And I think overall, I'm not sure why the expenses were down slightly.
Yeah.
Quite honestly, it may have been staffing. And the amount of staff that they got or don't have. Bill, is that part of it?
They said running about 24 positions. They've been about 24 positions vacant all year. They got lower last year, Dale, if I remember right, just think where that board was. And they got down, had moved it down to about 12, but they bumped back up and said about 24 positions constant all year.
Currently at 25.
Yeah.
That's gonna make a difference.
Any question on school nutrition? Keep in mind too, in their budget at the beginning of the year, they budgeted quite a bit of fund balance, which they knew that might have to happen. So any difference of revenues that maybe not coming in that they were planning on will be picked up out of their fund balance. Revenue expenses for AT school tax, third quarter revenues was $770,062. That's actually 103%, 0.86% increase over prior year. A lot of that is the prior year taxes when they come in and when they're submitted. So that was more than likely a prior year adjustment there that they had. Revenues overall was $2,813,612, which is a 31.89% over prior year. Third quarter expenses was $443,692, which is less than negative 35.19% over prior year. And then overall expenses was $1,360,114, which was actually up 27.41% over prior year. The difference in the revenue and expenses for this particular program, the AT supplements will be paid out in April, so that number will look very different after we pay those out. It'll be more in line with the expenses there. Cash balances as of 3/31/25. Current expense had a balance of $8,065,885. Capital outlay had a balance of $1,440,497. School nutrition had a balance of $6,788,239. And AT tax had a balance of $1,563,687. As I've mentioned before, cash fluctuates throughout the year, just depending on revenues and expenses and things.
Marty, what is the ideal, like, I know maybe 8, 10 years ago, what's healthy fund balance for us?
30% is probably good. You need 30 months of revenue on hand in case something were to come up and happen.
So we're pretty good shape right now.
Yes, sir.
Because I know one time we had gotten down to, what, 6? We never tried to get below that, right? 5 or 6
No, we were,
years ago. Have we ever been?
my early years, we were
Huh?
at 1, up to 2 on the market. It was,
We were low one time, wasn't we?
I don't remember being.
I can't remember, but I mean, that looks pretty good. I mean, I'm thinking,
And a lot of that goes back to, I think I mentioned as we talked about the
Time.
new budget, you talking about fund balance or you talking about cash on hand?
I'm talking about like, the cash balance. What's our fund balance roughly stay? What's,
Fund balance is close to 10 million
okay,
for current expense,
that's really,
which that's what I was
I
referring
was
to.
just curious, because we used to talk about what our fund balance, what was healthy, and I know when they do those audits, they would come in and, okay.
Yeah, that was the last.
Wasn't there a law at one time that you had to have a certain?
We were lower than that, wasn't we? A lot
Local
lower.
government commission typically requires you to have, if you take your budget, what is it, 2, 7, and 8, those budget funds, 8% of that, if you add those up, you take 8% of that, that's typically, and unfortunately, that 7%, that 7 is AT tax that counts towards it, I think. So we have to, I think that's the ruling on it, it's 8%.
8%.
For all those.
Those are operating, those 3 together. We used to just go right to Fund 2, which is our current expense. But in recent years, they had told us we really need to consider Fund 8 and Fund 7 in that sum, and then 8% of that, you need to have 8% on hand. So,
All right.
and that's the local government commission that's, you know, they're also the group that assesses whether the county can borrow money with bonds. You know, is the county and the county is itself, are they able to borrow money if they got too much debt on the books already?
I know with the school nutrition program, they want you to have 3 months on hand, so that you don't run into any issues there.
Marty, what's the rule on school nutrition? We can't charge indirect costs unless we have how much in savings?
We got to have 3 months of operating fund balance, and we have to operate in the black for that year.
And that was something that came out, what, 2 or 3 years ago?
Yes.
It was not in place, if I remember, until about 2 or 3 years ago, because I have to write a letter with Marty's help and everybody's involved to say that we have this on hand, we'll be charging indirect costs. What's it, goes out in December, is that right, Marty? Is that?
Yes, it's December.
Do you remember in the worst of times, what our funds balance?
I remember 2 million, 1, so somewhere in that range, maybe just less than 2 million, probably, that's.
Back in 1993, it almost got zeroed out.
That's what,
93, it almost got zeroed out.
I know with the school nutrition, there was, before that thing that happened 2 to 3 years ago, there's a lot of them, I mean, at a loss all the time.
Yes.
Yeah.
Well, that's the thing, that's the thing that I think is important to note about the school system as well. Before my time, it was already, if you ever get non-school nutrition money non-school nutrition money in your school nutrition budget, it is almost impossible to get it back out. And this school system, what I've seen, has never had to put non-school nutrition money into making school nutrition work. But I think that's part of why that came out of the covers, because there's a lot of things going on in different places in the state.
We're one of a handful in the state
Yes.
that operate in Blight, that have fund balance, and also pay indirect costs.
it is consistently stayed there in that range.
Yep.
And Dale will be bringing you probably next month, because they're still trying to, there's a thing called paid lunch equity measure, and because of the measure on that, we've been able to, Dale, we going on like 7 years of not raising lunch prices, something like that?
It was 2 or 3 or 4 hours.
Yeah, it's been a long time since we've had to raise lunch prices because of those measures and what's been in place with child nutrition. So it's been managed well by leadership in that area.
All right, the next item was the charter school enrollment. The red color there, that's sort of a historical background, I won't share that with you, but starting there with the 24-25 school year, we currently have 23 charters, 3 virtual charters that have reported 1,612 students. In that, we've got 1 new charter and 1 new virtual charter that we're sending funds to. Budgeted increase for the 24-25 school year was 100. Currently, we're at 108. Last quarter, I think I shared that number was a little bit higher. Typically, at the beginning of the year, that number's high, and then it typically comes back down. We start getting some of our students back. So right now, the difference is 108. Out of the charters, UR charters are largest. We have 1,268 RCSS students going there, which is an increase of 58 over prior year. Virtual academies, again, there's 3 of those. They have 76 of our students, and that's 33 increase over prior year. So far, year-to-date expense, we spent $1,716,961, or an average of $1,541 per student that go out to our charter schools. And the last thing I'll share will be the areas to watch. I mentioned last time that our winter had been a little bit cooler than previous year. So when I looked at the energy costs this year, July through March, compared to last year, July to March, right now we're spending $453,287 more than we did last year. So
You're talking about on the contracted,
no, energy costs.
Oh,
Energy costs. So hopefully our spring will be mild and we won't see a huge jump there. But I know we have a 90-degree day over the weekend, so I mean, it's hard to tell what that's going to do, but we have spent almost $500,000 more so far than we did prior year. Contracted custodial and transportation costs are another area that I've been watching. Now that the ESSER funds are completely closed out, the contracted transportation costs, same period this year to last year is $140,027 more than we spent from last year. And the contract custodial, keep in mind, ESSER paid for that 100% last year. But from last year to this year, it's a difference of $736,725. So we're paying out more now. We expected some of that increase, but we'll just continue to keep an eye on that.
What is that contract total?
It's just under $2 million, isn't it? It's just under $2 million for gas.
so we're solely gonna have to pay for that ourselves now. So my question, can we afford it? Or is it a time for people to, I mean, I don't know how you make them work. You can lead a horse to water, but I don't know how you make them drink. But, I don't know. I I mean, is there any, I know where you have, I know where you have two, like in a, or, I mean, are we gonna have to look at maybe downsizing some of that help? Is that something like we could, you think that's a possibility, or I mean,
What's the current
You know what?
contract run through?
we're in a bad situation, cause that's a hit.
And it's a $2 million contract?
It's just under two, it's 1.9.
Just a little bit. It's just
I mean, I think Mr. Cook, you hit the nail on the head, finding help that will work.
I'm sorry, what?
Finding help that will work.
If that's your issue, and some of our help that we have now, I don't care if you're listening, but, they're not doing, not all of them, some of them are not doing a very good job. They let those people do the work, and they said that they hide behind it, and that's not right either. And, I mean, I hear it all the time. We have some, I mean, they just dodge the work, and these people come in and, you know, of course, some of those come in with, they haven't done a very good job of following up on their employees either. They need to do better, clean it up a little bit, instead of letting some of them that out here that they play on the weekend too much. But I guess my question, if we've got a head custodian, or if you got two there, maybe they're gonna have to start picking it up or something. And, I mean, you might could back it down to you got one per, instead of, I know we have two per school, a lot of places, don't we? Two or three? At least two for the most part. I think that's something you're gonna have to look at. I mean, I don't know.
Is there an age requirement?
And that's not counting the mowing part, is
It will
it?
be 18 some of the equipment, I guess, the
I
chemicals.
was thinking about students, part-time work or something.
Yeah, they'd have to be older for students.
Especially in summer.
I guess in hard times, Gary, 'cause, I mean, good times, God, I wish I never put a pool in, but good times Gary would hire somebody to clean his pool, but in hard times Gary has to clean his own pool, you know? I hate that thing.
What school you gonna work at, Gary?
I guess I'm gonna go, I've got one I'll go, cause I'm gonna, can I fire one? Can I hire and fire when I go to school? I'm gonna say, you're fired. Yes, I've got two schools I'll take.
What's our requirement as far as renewing the contract? Do we have to give them so many days?
I think there is a time period that we'd have to notice.
Notify.
I don't know what that, I'd have to, what is the contract?
That's a big,
Do we, yeah.
What is our comparison cost to our employee versus the,
We didn't have enough. of our
Contract.
started when we had everybody to work.
Well, we don't have employees.
Yeah.
right?
That's the problem, and we went here because, we were beginning to have trouble keeping buildings clean. That's why we went here. So, a couple of years ago, Dale, we had a group that we bring in 10 a night and plug them in, and then it got to be what we could keep schools clean.
How many is there required to do that at a school?
Depends on the size, square footage of the school. There's a formula.
They have calculation that they come up with.
And how many hours do you usually work?
That determines, that calculation determines the hours that are needed to collect.
one of the problems our
4,
custodians,
6, that many?
a lot of them do, some of them's good.
We more than 6 hours a night?
Yeah, we usually,
They go ahead and
say
clean
it's
that up.
around like.
That's
Depends on the size of the window and cut.
We say no, office and stuff for school, nobody driving, clean school.
Well, you know it's cheaper.
The other piece about that contract, though, that needs to be taken into consideration is, when we sign that contract, supplies, cleaning supplies comes through that contract, as does, equipment. So there's the other piece. So we were paying that a different way and paying those two items a different way. So it's all one thing underneath that contract.
So it's their equipment.
Where it came, that came as part of the deal.
So we, we obviously have to look and see what we can do to, continue on. You asked when the contract's up, we're coming up in the next couple of meetings because we gotta have something by July 1. And Andre can tell you, we continue to post jobs and post jobs and post jobs, and no one's applying for them. So at some point, we have health standards we had to meet. And so that's why we went to this group, because, and quite frankly, a lot of people are going to contract group because they can't find help. So to your point, Mr. Cook, you post jobs, and there's people not out there. They run to a lot of the people who run to these contract groups. And, there's contract transportation groups that we've looked at, but we can't even come close to affording them. Because a lot of times they bring their own buses and the whole 9 yards, and we couldn't afford to do those. But, where are the bus drivers? Don't know, but when you got contract bus driver groups, and that may be that answer where they've gone. So we're kind of in a very pivotal spot of, can't find custodians, you gotta have buildings clean. I guarantee you, if the buildings aren't clean, we're gonna hear about it. You may hear about it before I hear about it. Quite frankly, we had, never seen this, but working hard trying to plug those 10. We had a group that we used 10 from, and we would plug them in at different schools as needed, but knowing they couldn't be there every night because they had to go to other schools. And then that got to be where that wasn't effective. At the end, that's why we had to go to something more, because our number of positions was mounting that were vacant.
The contract, is it a yearly contract?
Yes, it's an annual contract, yes.
So is it beat out each year or what?
No, but we have renewal clause on it. How many, was it a 5-year renewal clause?
Do we have any schools that don't have a head custodian that we use your system now? I know we don't, I don't think, do we?
I don't,
think they've all got head custodians.
they all still have a custodian.
In their defense, I have heard, and I mean, it's just a fact, I've heard a lot of people make the statement, our schools are a lot cleaner.
Well, I was gonna mention, they actually do a survey to the principals each month for them to provide a report card. And it's been really interesting to see how that has improved over the past 3 years with the grades for the school. Seth, Julian, he goes out to our fire inspectors, they've made comments about how much better our schools look too as well.
So that
When they do
compounds.
inspections.
There's the other issue compounding that was also developing prior to this, when you had the custodian vacancies. And prior to about 3 years ago, the custodians had hours to cut the lawns. But when you start having too many custodian vacancies, you can't get the lawns cut. In fact, when we went with the contract group with Job Hook, at that time, we had about 12 schools couldn't keep their lawns cut. And so there was compounding. The custodial vacancies were really hitting 2 things. They were hitting lawn care, they were also hitting cleanliness of buildings. So that's where we are right now. I mean, that's, that's why we've contracted both out. We got to a point where we couldn't keep up. And some people, I would tell you, we went with contract groups, and some people say, that's the worst thing you ever did. Well, okay, but you're the very one calling every day because the grass ain't cut. So, you gotta, I had a principal that was cutting 6 acres the whole time in summer. I didn't know, and he never tell me. But that's, I'm not opposed to cutting grass. I love cutting grass. But we've got other things that have to be done by staff too. So we're in a very pivotal spot, just to be quite frank with you. We are in a very pivotal spot. One thing I'll just say it for anybody listening, we're not going to use subs from the contract group anymore. And Dale's working on when that starts, because when we use subs from the contract group, it is an additional cost compared to the regular people on the ground. So we've got to figure out, we've got to make sure that'll hopefully save some funding. But you may hear that. When we don't use subs, you may start hearing that from schools. The custodian's out, there's no sub. We're going to pitch in and figure out how to get it done. Flip side of that is, for the principals that might be listening, we have principals cleaning their own schools. prior to going with this group. And we have principals going home, changing clothes and going back and cleaning schools. I'm not opposed to cleaning school, but that's not the issue. The issue is what happens if you've got a meeting or something. They can't do that. So we had a lot of people pitching in, but it got to be a situation where we just couldn't keep up.
I tell you a thing that always kind of, and this happened more than one time. Okay. Like, for instance, the custodians, if it's raining a lot or whatever, it's easy to get behind on the mowing, you might be playing a little bit catch up and try to go around. But you still have that equipment, like on site, there's lawnmowers and stuff there, right? At the schools and all. But here's where we are. If it's anybody saying, well, look, I can't take it anymore, I got some people coming over, I'm gonna go, we're just gonna mow the front part or something. You know who's mowing it most of the time? The principal. More so than, that's bad. I mean, the principal may go out and mow it, if it gets to that, he wants it done quick. I don't know, very few, I guess some of the custodians, we have 2 or 3 schools where they do it, but you got so far away from, people don't wanna work.
Well, to address that, Mr. Cook, we were very clear when we went with the loan group that we were not picking up the mowers. We have not picked up mowers. And we were very clear, what I call it, that there may be an apron at your campus that you always want to look good. And we told principals, your staff doesn't have time to do their jobs and do that when we're paying for the group to be there and we're short custodians. But if there's an apron, you got a big event and job book's not coming around they just, they made it there for 1 week, so it's another week out before they're coming back on rotation, then that's why we left the mowers there. So we have not picked up anybody's mowers. We may have traded one because one caught on fire somewhere. I think that's one of the things, and we traded one from one school to the next, and I think we later replaced that mower that we picked up from one place to another. So their mowers are still there. So it's a workforce issue, and it's interesting to me when I go to superintendent meetings and see the number of groups out there with contract services in the vendor area now. That's interesting to me. Didn't see that. I don't know. Maybe I just missed it 10 years ago or 12 years ago, whatever. But it's interesting how much you see that now. But part of the problem too is once you get in this, you're in it. We could pull out and go back to the way we're doing it, but now we got to go back to supplies, we got to go back to equipment, and there's no guarantee we find the manpower that we're missing. That's the concern I have.
I don't think you can do it.
No.
You can't do it.
You do it.
Thank you.
Because we were visited by the health department at the school right before we shifted. We had the health department visit one of our schools back, I guess it was 3 years ago, right, Dale? Was it about December? We had a health department visit from the school.
I've got an idea, but it's not legal, so.
Well, what do you think the appeal is on how they get their
Those little
employees
butts causing
versus
trouble,
why we
put 'em out in the
couldn't?
yard.
We don't know because there must be, Ms. Whitaker, there must be some kind of, there must be some extra benefits, whether it be bonuses or whatever, but I don't know. We've scratched our head with that too because we understand what they pay and what we pay, and that's not, we don't see that as being the challenge. So we don't really know because, I'm still of the belief of you get health care, you get retirement. I don't know how you can go wrong with that. Obviously, if everybody's salaries could be better if we could do better, but,
Dr. Haynes, is it okay if I make a comment?
yeah, absolutely.
Just to say that it's almost a catch-22, because some of their employees, they go to them because they don't have to drive a bus.
Right.
And that's a plus, it's a positive. However, they've also had some employees that started out with them and then saw the benefits of working for us and then turned around and quit the test and came to work for us. So we've actually flip-flopped employees several times just because of whatever it is that individual's looking for. One doesn't want to drive a bus, the other one says, oh, well, your benefits are so much better, I'm coming over there to work for y'all. So it's almost a catch-22 sometimes.
So is the contract is it a certain number of employees that they will provide? Is that what the $2
We
million
have a
is?
range,
Or,
we have a range we can go up to.
Okay.
It's got a cap, it's got a little wiggle piece on it, but Dale, I don't even know what the cap is, but you got a cap on it, how far we can go up,
yeah,
and, you know, that kind of puts us in no man's land too, and
Yeah.
I'm gonna own it, because I'm the one that said about December, I think it was that year, that I said, Dale, we're going nowhere fast, can you start looking for it? And we looked, because it was not getting better, we weren't bringing in people to fill the vacancies that Andre had, and the 10 that we had been doing for a while, we needed 30 a night, or something, you know, and so that's how we went there, knowing full well that was gonna, you know, once you're in, you're in, but there is a cap, we do a cap on it, and, I'm speaking, Dale deals with it, but, you gotta remember too, that contract is, again, we stopped the supplies, they'll still go straight to the school, right? So we don't deliver the supplies out like we used to, and the equipment is placed, is provided by them, but that, you know, that wasn't free. The supplies and the equipment wasn't free, so also when I look at that, I also think about what costs are now compared to when we got into this.
but we're still, I mean, obviously, we're still hiring for those positions. I mean, as far as if we have someone apply for a custodial position, we're hiring.
If it's one of our positions that comes open, we give the principal, 30 days? And if not, we turn it over to Hess, because we're probably position by position, financially,
Yeah.
you know, we're just paying a cost. We're not paying all the other benefits and all, which is cost us.
I guess it would be out of the question if you misbehave really bad in school, you give them a little grass clippers and you go out and mow the whole yard. I guess that wouldn't work, would
If
it?
we do that, Marty needs to put on the next one.
Turn around, get black marks on.
Ooh.
And then the final piece, is just our exceptional children's expenses, we'll keep an eye on that, and Dr. Gandy said multiple times, it just depends on which program, either EC or transportation, that will run out of funding first. And so certainly we'll keep an eye on that. This year, we've actually got more people on, working than we had last year, because we had several vacancies. And so that makes a pretty good difference.
Yeah, you, Gary. You not making
I'm
it.
gonna cut mine off.
Y'all got over there.
I mean, you're bad, aren't we?
Not yet. Well, Marty's got a whole list. What I was saying in the email this weekend is Marty's got a list. And I hadn't looked at it. We hadn't looked at it. We've looked at the one thing.
Must be another
But
program.
Marty points out something very interesting. Here's something interesting, and it's a good thing, we've taken our EC vacancies down considerably this year compared to last year. We were trying to figure out the budget difference. Well, it's probably 13 or 14 less vacancies than we had last year, which is a credit to everybody involved, but that also shows you the shortfall of the funding from what we get for EC. And the other piece is, when we get a child that has needs, we're responsible for those needs. And we have to do what we have to do to take care of a child. And all the needs aren't the same. And that's where that budget starts wobbling every single year.
Thanks, Marty.
We figured it out, and you get Dr. Cross back there to start an
The
internship
CTE
on landscaping, you know.
That's not gonna work.
That's it. We got plenty of lawnmowers, you can.
Yeah.
Good afternoon, board members. Tonight I have two things to share with you. We will start with the student assignment report for the third quarter. And then I will share that there's some differences, and I'll bring notes to those. But for the most part at this point, the only changes that you see in this is when students have moved, because reassignment, admissions, and releases is closed. So most of the change in numbers, if you see those, is because of students changing domicile. But I will remind you what the column headings are for. The capacity column is the capacity of the building itself. That does not include the capacity of the mobile units on site. That enrollment number is the reflection of the number of students enrolled as of March the 28th, 24. Capacity is the percentage of those. The MUs is the mobile units on site. As a reminder, the one listed beside Trinity Middle School, those two. are actually on the property of Braxton Craven. And then those last columns, the reassignment plus, are students that are domiciled in the Randolph County school system that are attending that school where the reassignment's negative, or the number of students that are domiciled in that school's district that is attending another Randolph County school, system school. The releases are those students that we've released to another public school, and as a reminder, that does not include charter schools. And then admissions are those from a public school that have joined us, with that last column being the net gain or losses per school. So if we scroll down to the bottom, my math is correct. The two numbers, the 984 and 984 should always be the same because that's the movement within our own school system. And again, the release and the admissions are the numbers that you will see that have changed more from the last report. And again, that is mainly just for students in our district that have moved out that we've allowed to remain, and vice versa. We do encourage students to stay consistent for at least the rest of the school year, so we approve those for them to remain. The other big difference, if you were looking at the numbers that I just want to share, is it will appear that the high school numbers have dropped. And they have, because enrollment in March does not include any of the early graduates, which would have been included on your last report. So we had 119 students that were early grads, and so our enrollment dropped by 119. So if you see that, where did that big drastic number go, that's what it's from. So if you take those and add it to our total, I think we only have 19 students maybe from the last report to this report that are no longer truthfully enrolled with us for some reason or another. So as I've shared before, we're in the middle of the reassignment time span. Releases have now closed. We'll look at accept reassignments till May the 15th and admissions until August the 1st. And from looking at our numbers throughout this whole year, we do not have a school that's at 95% consistently. I don't know that we've had one except maybe at the very beginning. So reassignments and admissions going into the 25-26 school year, as long as they meet board policy, that guidelines, I shouldn't say policy, it's the guidelines, we will not be denying based on capacity. And we've had that in the past. We don't have any schools at capacity for that to be a denial for a new request. Any questions about the third quarter?
Not even this is just a quick question, but like, okay, so Hopewell is 93%, but we have 2 trailers sitting there. And we can still let people come in that school, even, we got trailers, okay.
That has been, I mean, like, if you go back to Randall High School, it's had the mobile units for a while. They're at 91%, and we've been doing that for a while too. So it's pretty consistent with what we've had in the past, but yes, Hopewell, has not been at 95%.
So how do you explain,
We have another trailer.
okay, and I've always struggled with this, so maybe you can help me.
I know what you're gonna ask.
All right, well, I'm going to Randleman High School.
Okay.
All right, 91% capacity. 827, we can hold 912. But that's brick and mortar, that's not counting the 17 mobile unit, or 20, we use 17 of those. What if they weren't there? Where would we put, is that just certain classes, or how do you explain? I mean, even the same thing, I know how you explain it at Hopewell, we got a daycare, and we had to put 5th graders out in a trailer where we could make room for a daycare, right? I'm thinking. So we got 2 mobile units, and I think there's another class, and we lose 3 classrooms at Hopewell for a daycare, basically. But help me with Randleman, just so, I'm trying to figure the mobile units.
Someone else can help me maybe with the 912. I think that has to do with square footage and the amount that we could put in this room, but we also have to keep in mind there's a capacity. So in this room, it was a welding class, while the capacity of this room may be 50, safety-wise, they can't have but 20.
Okay.
So you roll over with needing extra rooms when you have a capacity on the caps of students that can be in the classroom, and capacity on, does that make sense? But now where the 912 come from, that was prior to me, so I'm gonna look at you gentlemen. But I'm pretty sure it's like fire code capacity for space, classroom space, correct?
And you're saying,
I don't know, I think you can't.
we'll just add another.
People ask that a question a lot, that's just a tough one, I don't have a
If you
real.
go to Randall High School, and you go count the number of classrooms,
My goodness, we had K through 8 there.
anybody goes on that campus and goes counts the number of classrooms.
They're claiming those capacities.
Other than some specialty classrooms, CTE and
Yeah.
far down behind the auditorium and all that. There's only one place for regular classrooms, and that is that middle building. And there's not just a gazillion of them in that building. Yeah, it's upstairs, downstairs, but some of those classrooms are not, you know, there's labs and stuff in some of them. If you start, one corner is the Family Consumer Science Foods classroom. That's a little bigger, but there's really not, when I think about that building, there's not a ton of classrooms.
It pretty much comes down to poorly built school.
And they're little.
Yeah, I mean,
Pretty
I'd be curious, the actual, you know, Mr. Cutler, what you, I think you were referencing the same thing. Take the number of actual classrooms at that school, not counting trailers, and I bet we'd be astounded how few actual classrooms there are. When
That's
you
kind of what
also
I
take
figured the way it
away-
was built.
When you also take away the specialty classrooms that can't have so many students in them, like, you know, your auto mechanics or your metals or, you know, that's gonna be my guess how that's, why that 91.
That's one advantage, like, I think when you build Wheatmore, Providence Grove, you'll learn that lesson,
You're always better off building in many, regular use classrooms that could be anything, but you can't, obviously a science classroom's gotta be different than one that could be used for math, science, or math, English, or social studies, or foreign language.
And I have one more quick one. Are we 393, I'm looking at you, Artie Ridge, are we down, were we close to 500 when we first, 612?
We raised up right at 500.
That's what I was thinking.
That thing kept ramping up during the 9, 10, 11, 12 edition. We got up to 500 close. We were, because I will tell you this, we opened in 17, 18, and by January of 17, we had 395 kids. That first year was ninth grade only. And we closed, and when we ended the middle school, last year of it being middle school was 339. So that's a pretty good jump right there that first year.
Yeah, that's what I was thinking.
I think there was 58 by January of 2017, or 2018, excuse me, 17, 18 year was first year.
First couple of
By
years, you
January
still
of 18,
offer sports in
Yeah.
Southwest.
I think we had 58 ninth graders in that first group of ninth graders, I remember, if my memory serves me right.
But when you looked at the sports numbers, it really didn't involve that many though, did it? I mean, it was like,
About
when it's 16 or something, it wasn't.
Most, if my memory's right, the most we ever had in a single year that went to Southwest
16.
to play sports.
But do you think that was because they left before they got to high school, like in the middle school? I
Say
mean,
that again?
like, do you think that part of that number of not showing in the high school was because they left after 5th grade and went to middle school at Southwest Middle?
There was a bunch of talk about that a few years ago.
I mean, that's what I'm just, I mean, if my kid was planning on going to Southwest, I would bypass URI Ridge and I would go
Is
to
that where the
Southwest Middle.
36 or are they mostly going to Southwest or?
I mean, I don't
35? I
know,
wonder, or the charter?
As a sports parent, that's what I would do.
When we crunched the data last year, I have not crunched it specifically for that school this year, it was not predominantly Southwest Middle.
And we had the suggestion that, we had a lot of kids coming out of Farmer, and I think when we pulled that data back, maybe back in the fall, I guess it was, we didn't have the movement of Farmer students to Southmont like we had in the past with childcare, if I remember right.
Correct.
We used to have a big movement of children to Southmont because of childcare and that people.
Does Southmont pretty much just feed Southwest?
Southwest.
So, okay. Would any of those kids going to Southmont that goes to right to Southwest, would where they've been moved earlier on, would they've been URI students or probably not?
Some,
Yeah, I would
some
think there would
possibly,
be
yeah.
Some of those kids went to Farmer or Seagrove.
Huh?
Yeah, we split
Yeah,
Seagrove and Farmer
I got
to
you.
make Southmont. So
Okay.
some of those kids would have.
Yeah, because I think, the kids in Oak Hollow, they still go to Farmer, don't they?
Yes, I think it's Farmwood.
Go- you go-
I think
yeah,
Farmwood, Southmont,
I don't know if Farmwood is, but I live
you little.
Todd Hill, poor end, right side. That's Southmont.
Way to
It's
clear.
4/10 of a mile closer to Southmont. It is Farmer. You can get to Farmer quicker than you can Southmont.
No, yeah, straight shot.
I just wonder if we could just, is there any way we could see about looking at some of these schools, just to say, hey, we're gonna get these kids in the buildings. You know, you look at Ramsor, you got 5 mobile classes, 5 mobile units, I don't know what they're being used for. In Randall Elementary, you got 5 there. You got 2 at Hope, at Franklinville, and that's less than 50% capacity.
5 at Rams are being used for classrooms, and the 5 at, where'd you say, what was the other last?
Random Elementary.
Randall Elementary, 4 that we use the classroom, 1 of them storage. Remember when we did the 5th grade from Randall over to middle school, we also reduced, did we take 10 trailers off that
I
campus?
thought it was about 12.
That was a good number, because, and then we moved, remember, we had trailers, which covered in those days, we had trailers behind Randall Elementary, and part of that was to get everything so you could see it from the road, because we had some safety issues, we thought, at night with vandalism. So I want to say we went from 15 to 10, but that may not be right.
Right.
15, yeah, maybe it was 15 to 10, or,
I'm like Utah, I mean, it's showing there, 198 more students could be in the building.
If I can add, like the ones at Ramsor, they are used as classrooms, but they're classrooms for pullouts for speech, ESL. It's not a
I think that's what a
classroom
lot
that
of the
is full-time
elementaries
all
do.
day long.
Yeah.
It's a pull-out setting for,
And-
most of the elementary schools is being utilized for pull-out
That's-
settings.
good catch it, Lena, because one of the things, I think when we did the 5th grade academy, we had a grade level of core classes in the trailers at Randall Elementary. And part of the goal of that whole plan was getting all core classes back in the building. So when you see classroom, it might not be a core classroom. To your point, which I think what you're saying is, can we get the regular classrooms back in the building?
Yeah.
And I would say, I may be off, but just
I think
thinking about.
that came up.
I think, yeah, that came up with that plan, but I may be off, but just thinking about school visits, probably the only place right now that's got a core class that I can think of, and as soon as I say it, somebody's gonna text one of you, or call one of you and tell you, gang, you don't know what he's talking about, but the only place I can think of right now that's got core classes in trailers are those 2 at Hopewell. And, I know that comment was brought up in the beginning of this discussion, but Hopewell's numbers didn't,
Yeah.
what they wound up saying they were gonna have,
In between the-
they didn't wind up having.
Two.
You pulled positions back from Hopewell.
Yes.
Hopewell, we pulled, if you don't make your numbers, we pulled positions back, we may need them somewhere else. And they didn't make their number, we pulled position back, and they had to do some reorg. It was 1 or 2 positions.
I think we can.
Yeah, what?
Is
Oh,
it-
well.
Yeah, this, when, getting ready for 24, 25.
So you think they're gonna be low on numbers?
I don't,
Wow.
see, they didn't make the number they were projected to be at for this year, which is what led to the 2 trailers.
Is the number for the virtual academy, is that correct? We have 106 students now.
106, I will tell you, to be in my, tonight, I'm gonna present a report to you. 106, but I will tell you, 10 of those are from Ashburn City Schools as admissions. And that 106 was as of,
March
March 26.
Okay.
Yep.
We're on 28.
53 elementary of ours, 43 middle grades of ours, and then the 10 from our Ashburn City, and, I don't know what grade level they were, I just didn't pull that apart.
Does Randolph County Schools receive anything for those 10?
Oh, yeah, but they would be admissions to us, so the money allotted would come to us.
Okay.
Yes. No, we're not gonna take admissions and not take the money.
On these mobile units, every one we got now we own, or we still leasing them?
We have 11 we lease.
Did we get a report on what each one of them's used for?
Yeah, we.
Cause I mean, you're saying they're used for storage, and this is my thing, and I'm a big fanatic. I get on my wife all the time. I don't believe in storing some junk. You know what I'm saying? If it's, if it's not storing stuff that, my thing is, if you ain't used it in 6 months, it's junk.
Your wife let you do that?
Yeah, she does.
Wow, man, I'm gonna take it.
One day she come home from work and had a heart attack, cause I went through her closet.
Taking that in, but oh,
Did he
We'll
really
have
got
that same
hurt?
conversation at my house, and then we take care of it.
Hey, I've still been married 38 years, so.
And that's why he
I've
sleeps
been
in the
married
fire
44.
department.
Hey, Fred, that's freeing my back hurt. But you know what I'm saying, if these things ain't really been utilized like they should, we shouldn't be leasing trailers, you know what I'm saying?
We've been,
We were talking about cutting costs, well, let's cut costs.
when I got here,
Let's
we
pull
had
down
30.
front now.
Mr. Bowles,
that's it.
Pretend like we're
Bowles,
Doja.
when I got here.
Oh, I know how many
had
we used to have.
37 leased.
Oh, I
if
know.
remember right.
But you know, but what I'm saying is somebody just using one of these for a catch-all, you know, I mean, it's like down here, every year you got a surplus auction.
That's right.
Get rid of the stuff. Well, not anymore, you list on gov deals now. I read your email.
Okay, the second thing I have to share with you is the 23-24 dropout data. Just want to remind you that this always runs a year behind because we have the first 20 days of the next school year in order to reach out to those that dropped the year before. And if they re-enroll within the first 20 days at school, they do not count as a dropout. So we had to report our dropouts for the 23-24 school year in November. However, it was extended because of the circumstances going on along in the state with the mountains. And so this was reported and posted by the state in February. So I'll bring this to you tonight to share. You see a 5-year trend data there for our school system for last school year. We have a 1.13 dropout percent rate, which is lower than the state, which is at 1.34. I also want to remind you that they require a requirement to do 7th through 12th grade, so it's not just high school, it's 7th, 8th, 9th through 12th. If you look at the year before that, is around a 19% decrease from 22-23. While we're here, oh, my time is up. 3 more minutes, please. While we look at, while I'm at this piece, I just want to remind you that 1920 and 2021 years are asterisk there. The state reports that as asterisks as well because those are the years that were impacted by COVID, so that data is flawed. I would also share with you that I believe when we went ahead of the state in 2021 to 1.69, and the state was 1.33, I honestly think those 2 years, 0.68 is we were all remote, so we didn't lose anybody at the end of the year. The 1.69, we were one of the only school systems that were in school, so we probably had more accurate data than anybody else in the state, and that's just my opinion, but I think that's the reflection of those 2 years. And then we've hit the ground running, as you can see, to continue to lower our number of dropouts. One dropout is too many, but as long as we're decreasing, we're continuing to try to be creative and make sure that we find the best fit for the student. So for this past school year, 23-24, we had 45 males and 36 females. You can see the demographic breakdown for a total of 81 drops. Last year we had 100, so again, it's about a 19% decrease. If we continue that, next year they will be at the lowest number that they've had reported for the school system, which would be awesome. And if you look down at the schools, you can see the relations. I don't know why I left the last year bold, so that's my fault. But you can see each individual high school, the last 5-year trend as well. And then the other that's listed on the bottom is to capture the middle school numbers, because again, we have to report 7th and 8th graders. So there was one middle school student that was reported as a drop last year. So this is, in all means, a team effort. So, I want to thank the student services staff, the student advocates, counselors, and social workers for working collaboratively to work hard to meet the needs of students in order for them to not be a dropout. Any questions about this year's data?
Always try to give them hope.
Always give them hope.
What did you say, Phil?
Always try to give them hope.
It's all about relationship building. So I will brag on the team. Randolph County School Systems was down 19% from 22-23 to 23-24, while the state of North Carolina was only down 2.6%. So we are working hard to lower our dropout rate compared to the state dropout rate, the way it's decreasing. So again, anyone listening, thanks to the team for all their hard work.
What do you think's like what, 8, 10 years ago, it was like, when was it, where were we when you came in the dropout rate? It was,
So in 2008, 2009, it was 5%. The state was at 4.27.
what do you think? Do you think it's the school smaller size helps, or programs, or?
I think there's a variety of things. I think there's also more options for students as we continue to go. So finding what the right fit is for a child. We work really hard, whether it's homeschool, Penn Foster, online. State now, some of those Tar Heel Academy job corps are starting to offer high school graduation diploma tracks, which helps. We were sending some students to those type of settings, and it's because they were doing GEDs and not high school diploma track. Kids are still getting their GEDs, but they're still considered a dropout. So I do think that the options that are available to support students if our traditional school is not fit for them is widened and is greater for kids now than there were in the years past, which is helping us with options.
We have like 2 guidance counselors each high school mostly.
Yes, sir.
What about social workers? Do they come in regular, or?
Social workers, because of the grant money, they have lowered their numbers, so they're in each high school, at some places 1, sometimes 2 times a week. And the process now for a student to be dropped, it has, regardless of who starts the interaction with the child, it has to stop with the social worker as well because of our paper trail for drop-in and truancy charges and those different pieces. So they're all actively involved in every student before they.
You have to have, there used to be something about driver's license. Does that still hold that over your head?
Can, yes.
I think CTE programs have helped a lot.
Yeah.
And CT, I'm sure,
CTE
played a
and
huge
then,
role.
and the classes they get to go to RCC and take, you know.
When you look at it too, just like what Mr. Cross said tonight, I mean, they're being taught to in the 5th grade. It started there.
I think there's a lot of things that have changed
That's
from when it
huge.
started, that's
Yeah.
really helping students find their place. And I not thought about CTE, but you are correct. I was thinking about, they're in our office dropping out, what are our options? But you are right, they probably don't even come to us as a dropout risk because of the connection that's being made prior to getting there because of the CTE type programs. So again, it's a team effort.
Yep.
Everybody in that building has an impact, we're building relationships and doing what's right by children, so it's a complete team effort. Anything else about the 23-24 dropout rate? All right, thank you.
Thank you.
I think the dropout rate, when you look at it, we're back settling in kind of where we were before the pandemic. That's also pretty evident. So the last thing, board members, is your scheduled events. Want to note the June 2nd, I mentioned this last time, June 2nd board meeting will be at 4 o'clock, because I'll be presenting the budget that evening to the commissioners. Also, there's a new item number 3, is county commissioner meeting, joint meeting with the Board of Education next Monday night, April 14th. It is at the county government building, it's not at the courthouse. You saw my email this weekend, I hope you saw it, learned a little bit more this weekend about it. But I think 2 things will come out of that, is one is kind of the funding schedule the commissioners will have for any building projects we might have. And I think that, just preparing you, I think the board will be asked, what are their priorities, or what are your priorities here? So I just give you that heads up. I believe that will be a question that's going to be asked, you know, as far as the variety of things that are on the phase 1 plan. So that's what I gathered. I gathered that this weekend in a conversation. So.
And when you get with Elizabeth about the ethics thing?
I guess tonight we'll have to come up with something, a date down the road with her, I guess. And we have to come up with one on that hearing too.
Yeah.
So do you think on the 14th, is it gonna be productive? Or is it gonna be like the last 3 we set in, at 2 or 3, that pretty much
Didn't they ask,
a dog chasing his tail?
didn't they ask for it?
Well, they're the ones asked us to come over.
That's right, they're the
So,
ones that asked us, so I would think it'd be
we were
productive.
asked to come, so,
We asked them to do that.
and Dale right now's, probably about 8 minutes out from doing a presentation pretty soon in that window of time at 6 o'clock regarding a piece of property. So, with them, so I'm gonna bank on they asked us to come over, so.
I'm fine, but I'll just tell you right now, if we get in there, and this is my personal opinion, and as much as we've been through and watching other school systems benefit, we get in there and they start the bond thing, and that's where we start from the beginning, I'm walking out. That's where I'm at. Won't pass.
Board members, that's all we have for work session, and we'll be back in the board meeting.
Let's see the commissioners, what they